Rev up your engines! Now, if you follow the news, you know that Toyota, after 2021, said they're not going to make the Land Cruisers anymore, which I think is a real shame, and I'm going to show you why with this 99. This thing has over 300,000 miles on it and still runs like a clock. And they're built like tanks, literally. The lady who was driving this on a highway got in a real jam, going over 70 miles an hour, smashed into the guardrail. That was 8 years ago. It's the same damage. They had to put a new headlight in it. It's still tracked down the road straight. Now it was purchased used. Strangely enough, from an auction. And normally I say don't buy an auction vehicle. I have no idea why this thing was on an auction. It went for $10,000 less than its actual value. It was worth $35 at the time, and he got it for $25, but that was a long time ago. They hand these things down because they're so solid built. Now, yeah, they're complete gas hogs. They always have been, but they're better than they used to be. I had a customer with the old 6-cylinder one with a coffee can pistons and a standard transmission, and in Houston, in town, he got about 5 miles a gallon. Of course, being a 99, this is more modern. It's got a V8 engine instead of the 6-cylinder, and it's fuel injected. But even though it's a V8, it gets about 20 miles a gallon on the highway. Now, in town, no one in their right mind ever wants to know what they're getting in one of these things, because they do get pretty bad gas mileage. He does a lot of highway driving, so, you know, 20 is not bad for something this big. And size is why they bought it. His wife said, I'm not a van woman. But they wanted 3-row seating. Well, of course, this has got 3-row seating. There's seats all over the place. And yes, the leather seat is cracked here. That's what happens with a lot of these older ones. The seats weren't all that well made. But as you can see, Toyota figured it out. 2 years later, look at these seats. They're only 2 years younger and they're still in great shape. No, the big V8 engine, these can tow a lot. He's actually towed a Sequoia out of a ditch with this thing. I personally find it a shame that they're not going to be building these things anymore. They say they're not after 2021. I mean, who knows what the future will bring. A lot of that just has to do with gas mileage ratings. Toyota wants to keep their corporate ratings up higher. This drags it down. And who knows, maybe they'll come out with a hybrid or an electric version. Nobody knows. But these things, they have been around for so long, and they can last so long. It's a shame that they're even planning on stopping sending them over here for us. Now, since this is all-wheel drive, front and back, you're never going to get stuck with one of these. Now, at 150,000 miles, he had to get the differential repaired because the planetary gear had some wear in it. But it only cost him $1,100. Not that big of a deal. A solid built unit can be rebuilt. You take a lot of modern vehicles, they're so cheaply made that when they're gone, they're gone. You can't really rebuild them. And my differential and standard transmission guys just say, forget it. Get another unit. We're not going to try to rebuild it because we've tried. They just don't hold up because they're too cheaply made. These are solid made, and they can easily be rebuilt by people who know what they're doing. Now, being a Toyota, typically, everything on it still works. The air conditioning, all the windows, they're solid built. You can keep driving them, and when something does break, you can fix it. Parts are available. They share a lot of parts. Toyota does a lot of parts interchangeability in a lot of their vehicles, so if you ever own one any length of time, you can find the better places to buy them, lower prices you can get parts from. They're not hard to get parts for. But they do have one main problem, and that's this. You can never get them cheap, because people know they're worth something because they're so well built. And really, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You're getting what you pay for, actually more than what you pay for. Now, you go out and buy some American vehicle this size, hey, when it's 8, 9 years old, it's generally falling apart. You gotta buy another one. Well, 20, 30 years later, this thing's still rolling down the road. As we'll see when we start it up. Starts right up, even though it has 303,000 miles on it. The all-wheel drive system still works perfectly fine. Even the heated seats work, which is good in this cold day today. As you can see, if you put it in gear, it doesn't shake at all. 300,000 miles or not. Now, if you want a large, reliable, never get stuck anywhere vehicle, and you don't care that much about gas mileage, you really can't beat these things. Because if you think about it, like I said, how many vehicles are going to hit a guardrail at 70 miles an hour and still be rolling down the road decently? Sometimes big and heavy comes in handy. Yeah, you're going to get worse gas mileage. That's just the way it goes. Reliability, something that can just keep rolling down the road. It's a shame they're not going to be making these anymore. Now, they do have a big maintenance thing, and that's that these older ones have timing belts on them. And you can see he's been religiously changing the timing belts through the history of it. That's one expense that you want to spend if you own one of these and you want to keep it forever, because this is a V8 engine that's an interference engine. If the timing belt breaks, the pistons will hit the valves, then it will cost a fortune to rebuild the engine. This is one of the few interference engines that Toyota ever manufactured. You take care of it, change it every 100,000 miles or so, you're not going to have any problems. And unlike other older vehicles where customers will say, well, it's really expensive to change this big timing belt, should I just drive it until it drops? And I say, well, you know, it's not worth much. What the heck, drive it till it drops? You never know, maybe it'll go another few years. With these, you don't want to treat them that way because they can last forever, and you'd hate to destroy a very expensive engine because the timing belt or the water pump broke. So when you do change it, especially an old one like this, you also want to change the pulleys and the tensioner and the water pump, because you don't want any of those parts breaking, because when any of them break, then the timing belt will break and fall off, and the pistons will hit the valve and destroy the engine. So that's the main expense on these things. Because it would be a shame to ruin a vehicle like this. I mean, look. Gigantic solid frame. These things actually can last forever. And really, from my experience and how I see things going in the automotive industry, this might be one of the last vehicles ever made that has a possibility of lasting forever. 300,000 miles? Listen to that engine. The only thing you can hear other than the fan running because it's cold outside, it's a slight rolling cam noise. And I mean slight. It's not shaking. They don't make them like that anymore. Unfortunately, they just don't. And you take any of these modern engines that have GDI fuel injection, turbocharging, they're gonna wear out faster. They have to. There's too much pressure in them. This is a conventional engine. Conventional fuel injection, no turbocharger. They really can last forever if you take care of them. So if you think about it, the payments are long gone on this thing. It's been paid for. What's the owner going to do with it? Well, he's saving money, not buying any more vehicles so he can send his sons to college. And he said when he's done sending them to college, they're going to do a lot of traveling. And guess what they're going to travel in? This thing. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a sad day that Toyota decides they don't want to make these things anymore because they were the perfect people mover. And yes, everything is being downsized these days. So if you want something like this, here's my advice. Buy one now before you can't find one anymore. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Ivan Ramirez, 205 says, Scotty, I want to ask you this. I got a 2010 Volkswagen turbocharged automatic. Bought it privately January 1st, 2020. When I put the car in drive, leave my foot off the gas, it'll kick forward, then kick again. And the same thing happens reverse. It kicks. Do you think's wrong with it? And this is going to be a cheap fix. Well, your Volkswagen is basically kicking you in the rear end. You should have never bought that car. You bought it, what, almost a year ago. It's a Volkswagen, and it's turbocharged. They're endless money pits. That's 11 years old. It's going to be a real big money pit soon. Your transmission is probably starting to go out. If I were you, I'd get rid of it as fast as I can if you don't lose too much money. To rebuild a transmission on one of those things costs anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 to do it correctly. They are rolling piles of junk as they age, and yours is starting to go out if it's kicking like that. The only thing that might be wrong, if you're lucky, check the CV joints. If the rubber boot's ripped, the grease is leaked out, it can be the joints clunking because they're worn. That's a cheap fix. You can go to even places like AutoZone, buy complete axle assemblies, bolt them off, bolt them on, or pay a mechanic to do it. But from my experience with those VWs, it means your transmission is starting to go out. If the boots aren't ripped and the joints are okay, your transmission's starting to go out. You should have never bought that Volkswagen in the first place. If you're going to buy a Volkswagen, get a standard transmission. Don't get their automatics if you want long life, because they don't last long. Now, here's a man with a plan. There's a guy in Connecticut, and he has a trailer hitch snowplow on his Subaru Outback. What he does is he parks the Subaru at the end of the driveway, close to his house. The snow all comes. What does he do? He puts the snowplow on his trailer hitch and he backs it out and pushes the snow out of the way. What a genius idea. The guy started out with the snowblower, right? But he's got a long driveway. And it took him up to 2 hours to clear that driveway, pushing that snowblower back and forth. Now, there's a company in North Dakota called AgriCover. obviously an agricultural company. They make covers, but they also make a Snow Sport 180 snowplow that you can hook up to your trailer hitch. As long as you have a standard 2-inch trailer hitch, the thing will fit. And it only weighs 56 pounds. It's not made for plowing the whole road, right? It's just for your driveway. And it just snaps on your hitch. And due to the angle of the plow, they said that you can plow snow higher than the hood of your vehicle. It's pretty deep snow. So rather than spend 2 hours with the snowblower in his giant driveway, he spends a few minutes backing out with the snowplow stuck up to his hitch. Pretty interesting idea, yeah? Hey, where there's a will, there's a way. I spend all that time with this little snowplow and back it up. Just remember, pull your vehicle all the way to the end of the driveway and don't put things behind it, because if you do, that's the end of that idea. You're going to get furious if you pull it in and your wife pulls in behind you, snows like mad at night, and then you can't use it because hers is in the way. So always make sure that your trailer hitch is the last one in the driveway with nothing behind it so you can push it out. What an idea. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.